Distant, rest assured, I'll bring you down. I'll make you wish you'd never been born. I'll make you wish you'd never been born. And all of this will turn to rest just as soon as the rain is dry. I'll be the last one standing up, and you will suffer for your foolish pride. I'll make you wish you'd never
We're better off if all you knew was gold. All along you've been a fool.
When I first embarked on my journey into the wilderness in the spring of 2018, I did so with the intention of leaving everything human behind me. In the 2 years of preparation I spent beforehand, I had this constant sensation of standing on the edge of a map with my toes hanging over the edge. Everything I knew was behind me, on the map, and everything I was trying to look forward to was in front of me, over the edge of an abyss that I couldn't see into. My concept, and what I had anticipated, is that the moment I set foot in the wilderness and left the world behind me, everything that had saddened, angered, confused, or upset me, or left me feeling lonely about my place in the human race and my place in the world as a whole, would instantly fade away into the earth, leaving me with a sensation of contentment and belonging in the world that had been waiting for me all along. I have always felt that this was my path, that this is the life that was waiting for me, and it was just a matter of getting there. And I knew, not only felt, but I knew that once I had achieved that, once I was there, once I was in that life, everything would feel as though it belonged. I would feel as though I belonged. But what I found upon arriving there is that everything I thought I was running away from or building a life against had followed me there and was slowly showing itself. Despite being surrounded by incomprehensible beauty in every direction, I found myself slipping into a deep depression, resentful towards my own life, and feeling disenchanted by the fact that my last frontier, my last salvation and hope of happiness, had been tarnished. There was a turning point in my mind at some point where I simply disengaged from my own reality. I turned my attention instead to the lives that were unfolding around me, things that before had gone unnoticed because I was so consumed with my own unhappiness that I simply failed to see them. What I found is that all around me, in every direction, on a macro scale, were beings going about their day, completing their lives, accomplishing tasks, solving problems. Each one of these beings faced the same problems that I did: how to achieve heat, sustenance, companionship, prosperity. But what they didn't have was the sense of overwhelming grief for my own condition, or for their own condition. Their way of approaching these obstacles was from the point of view of necessity, and this became an education for me. These beings became my teachers. Be it the spider who found shelter on the Velcro strap of my canopy, the millipede, troublesomely navigating his way around pieces of wood in the macro landscape, the paper wasp who humorously taught me that all creatures are wasteful and forgetful, or the carpenter ant who majestically and honorably dismantled her own body after achieving her purpose for her colony. Each one of these creatures taught me something about myself, about life, and about purpose. I began to investigate life on a much more minute scale, exchanging facial expressions and confused moments with millipedes, or admiring the architectural and artistic tendencies of woodpeckers. It all became puzzle pieces to the way I viewed the world, each one in its individual parts that made up a larger picture. But I no longer saw the larger picture. I saw each individual part and the part that it played. As my mental process of dissecting the world became more acute, pronounced, and focused, I stopped seeing things as themselves and started seeing the parts of the world only as shapes, colors, movement, something that I can only describe as emotional or psychological algebraic equations, mathematic tendencies in the rhythm of life. As this process continued to unfold in my mind over time, I found that I was also starting to see myself as a shape, a series of colors, a series of motions. I no longer saw myself as a flawed, complicated, and malcontent being stuck in a society that I didn't belong to. I started to see myself as simplistically and purely nothing more than a moving part of a machine. I was no longer broken and misplaced. I was blended seamlessly into the color palette of the earth. And as seconds blended into days, and days blended into weeks, colors also blended into each other. Shapes now had joining sides, and motions began to blend seamlessly into portraits of life. And as all this life began to blend into each other, I started to realize that my life, me, I wasn't just a shape, a color, a motion. I was an integral part of this system that would not function the same if it were for my absence. Would it all continue to function if I were not here? Absolutely. Of course it would. It would function flawlessly, because that's the nature of adaptation. But it would not function the same. My heartbeat here becomes a part of the music that is the nature of this beast, that is the nature of this forest, that is the nature of this earth. All of these individual lives, these individual heartbeats, these individual purposes that exist side by side, they are the individual strokes of the paintbrush that create this portrait. And it was this breakdown and rebuilding of my perception of the world and of life that helped me understand my place within it.